We finally got this thing working. I'm going to run it through its paces first and then take a video of all the settings and go from there. So we got it all wired in. I still have to finish up all the wiring. The limit switch or the home switch still has to get finalized. I had that on a push button for a while so that I could trigger it without the table actually being in the machine. Got the larger 10 series Fanic motor mounted. We got the chuck clamp and unclamp solenoid hooked up. I got a pressure gauge just hooked into the port right now. I'll get a line ran down to that later. So we are getting air pressure to the fitting for clamp and unclamp. Yeah, so I got everything mounted up here. I've got just a little bit of jogging code plugged in, so we're going to go ahead and cycle start this. And oops, forgot this needs to be a positive number. Forgot the A does not like negative numbers. Here we go. So we'll just jog it around a little bit. So as you can see, you can hear the solenoid in the background commanding lock and unlock. It should stop at 0. And it's pretty darn close. So still have to fine tune the limit switch. For right now I'm just G92.1 after it aligns and getting it close. But yeah, so far so good on that. The autofocus is not working very well, but alright, so now I messed with this thing for hours and I'm going to show you guys how we did this. So we're using a 3000 pulse encoder, same as all the other Axis on this machine. So our math was a little bit different than what we had seen on the settings. I don't know if there's anything in here that's pertinent. Let's take a look and see. So align coordinate, these all need to be adjusted probably for getting the switch to actually align properly for home position and all that. Everything else on here looks good. These are all just the settings that came from Cincinnati. These are the ones, the Axis and the servo are the two that I spent the most amount of time actually messing with. Originally what was happening is when it was jumping all around, what it was doing is the acceleration and the rates were too high and it basically couldn't move the servo fast enough, and that's why it was jumping all over the place. So instead of doing rotary windup, I did rotary modulus, since windup is generally just an RPM command. It's not an actual indexable or locatable type of motion. So we have an A-axis. Shortest path is selected, so if I give it a A20 and then an A40, it doesn't go all the way back around to 20, or it doesn't go all the way around and then back to 20 the long way. So low limit and high limit, these can be made larger if I want. I don't plan on ever going over 360 degrees because the post processor won't punch it out any larger than that. Let's see the axis rates here. So max velocity, so 3600 degrees a minute. So this is rated for 10 RPM. It's as fast as it'll ever go. I don't really need to go any faster than that. This is not a 5-axis. I'm not that worried about it. Everything else, all of our fail limits and all that are generally the same setting as what it came from Cincinnati. So everything's good there. Now if I go into the servo, this is where we get a little bit tricky. That data line that popped up that kept disappearing when you go into let's see where it is here. There we go. So the weird thing is you're supposed to have this Axis modulus set to your encoder modulus, which was 3000 or 2000 or whatever. I found that I have to have not only this axis modulus set to whatever my final gear ratio or encoder count is for run revolution of the table, put it on a 1x multiplier, invert A and B, and we go to gearing. The gearing has to be the same. So if I back out of here and I go back to home, right now we're at 0 degrees on A, right? So if I go A20, it will go to 20. We'll come over here and it goes to 20. So all is happy, all is well. I just need to make the enclosure, finish up the wiring, start making fixtures.